Okay, let's dive in. We've got this set of sources here, all from WhiteRock, and they're focused on something called USDX.
Right, USDX. And WhiteRock is really positioning it as a yield-bearing stablecoin. That's the term they use.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we're really just going to stick to these specific sources. Our goal is to unpack what WhiteRock is actually saying here. What is USDX according to them?
Uh-huh. How does it supposedly work? What benefits are they highlighting?
And crucially, what do they say makes it different? We're looking just at their description, their claims.
Got it. So really trying to understand WhiteRock's own narrative about USDX based purely on this material they've provided.
Precisely. Let's get into it.
Okay.
So straight away, the sources introduce USDX as a stablecoin. Pretty standard start, aiming for that one-to-one peg with the U.S. dollar. Stability is key, obviously.
Right, the foundation. But then there's that twist, the yield-bearing aspect. That seems to be, the main hook in their pitch.
Yeah, definitely the headline feature.
Hmm?
And the sources get specific about how that yield is generated and, maybe more interestingly, how it's distributed.
They state pretty clearly that the funds backing USDX are invested, specifically in U.S. Treasury bills.
T-bills.
Okay.
And the material makes a point of calling those, a globally recognized safe investment known for consistent interest.
Yeah, they frame it as the reliable engine driving this potential yield. That underlying investment is key to their story.
But it's not just generating the yield, it's what happens next that WhiteRock seems to emphasize as unique,
Right.
according to them.
Exactly. The sources make a big deal about the fact that this profit, the earnings from the T-bills, supposedly isn't just kept by the issuer.
Right. They stress that it's distributed directly to all USDX holders. Everyone holding the token gets a piece, is the idea.
And the mechanism they describe for doing this automatically is called rebasing.
Rebasing. Okay, need to understand what the source material means by that. It says rebasing means the actual quantity of USDX tokens in your wallet. It just goes up.
Automatically increases to reflect the interest that's been earned.
And they emphasize, you don't have to do anything. No staking, no locking up tokens, none of that.
Right, that's a key point they make. It's designed, supposedly, to be completely passive. You just hold USDX.
And your balance grows over time, directly reflecting the yield from those underlying T-bills.
And WhiteRock presents this mechanism as, transparent and fair within their system. That's their framing.
It sounds like that automatic rebasing is a core technical pillar for them. So, okay, pulling it together from these sources, what are the main benefits WhiteRock is really listing for holding USDX?
Well, they lay out a few key things. First, obviously, is that passive income piece we just talked about, the earn while you hold idea.
Yeah, your balance just goes up. No extra steps needed, according to them. Simple. What else?
Stability and trust are pushed hard. They reiterate the dollar peg, aiming for that value stability.
And they mention plans for, external validation.
Yes, they explicitly state USDX will be audited by Ernst & Young and also rated by Moody's. So using those big traditional finance names.
Interesting. Leaning on established players to signal security, even in the digital asset space.
Yeah.
What's the third main benefit they seem to highlight?
That seems to be about financial inclusion. The sources position USDX as a tool for, basically everyone.
They mention individual investors specifically, right? And maybe people newer to digital assets.
Exactly. WhiteRock says it sort of empowers these investors by giving them access to investment opportunities that, maybe traditionally weren't so easy for individuals to get into, often reserved for the big guys, the institutions.
Okay, that makes sense as a selling point. And it leads right into how WhiteRock claims USDX is different. How do they distinguish it in these documents?
Yeah, this is where they draw some pretty clear lines. They argue that in traditional finance, regular people often hit barriers trying to access decent yield investments.
And it's not just traditional finance they contrast with, is it? They also compare USDX to what they call typical stablecoin issuers.
Right. The source material points out that, look, lots of stablecoin projects make money investing the backing funds.
Right. Usually the issuer keeps that profit. It doesn't flow down to the person actually holding the stablecoin.
Precisely. And WhiteRock explicitly claims USDX is different, built on the principle of sharing those T-bill investment profits directly with you, the holder. That's the core argument.
So their pitch is this aligns their interests with the community holding the token.
And they mention using blockchain tech to be more efficient, lower overhead, so those savings or profits can be passed on. That's the claim.
So if we boil down WhiteRock's message from these sources, the big differentiator they're highlighting is this commitment, their stated commitment anyway, to share the T-bill profits directly with holders through that rebasing thing.
Yeah, presenting it as a stark contrast to both traditional finance gatekeepers and the profit models of many other stablecoins.
That seems to be what they see as the fundamental philosophical difference, almost. A model where the holder is intended to benefit directly from the underlying asset's yield.
That's certainly how WhiteRock frames it in the material we have.
And they frame it pretty grandly, don't they? I mean, the sources use phrases like financial revolution.
Oh, yeah. And being part of a move towards a more equitable financial future, it's quite ambitious language.
It definitely elevates it beyond just, another crypto asset. They present it as actively trying to reshape finance.
Aiming for financial growth, empowerment, using a decentralized approach. The call to action in the material is literally be part of the change.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the key takeaways from these WhiteRock sources we've looked at.
Sure.
USDX is presented as a dollar-pegged stablecoin designed to generate yield for holders.
That yield supposedly comes from investing the backing funds in U.S. Treasury bills.
And it's distributed automatically through rebasing your token balance, just increases over time.
The main benefits WhiteRock claims are passive income just for holding, stability via the peg, and planned audits ratings.
And financial inclusion, giving broader access to certain investment returns.
And the core differentiator, according to WhiteRock, is that direct profit-sharing model, sharing the T-bill yield with holders.
Positioning that against how traditional finance and many other stablecoin issuers operate, framing it as fairer.
Exactly. Their perspective as presented is that USDX puts the holder first by letting them directly participate in the yields generated by the assets backing the coin.
Right. It definitely leaves you thinking about the whole model they're proposing here in these sources. It raises a pretty big question, drawing directly from their themes.
Which is?
Well, according to WhiteRock's vision presented here, what are the potential implications of a stablecoin model that explicitly sets out to share investment profits directly with holders like this, using something like rebasing?
And how might that kind of approach, if it worked as they describe, potentially challenge the existing financial structures we know?
Or empower individual investors in the way WhiteRock suggests? That's really the provocative thought underlying the material we've covered in this deep dive.